Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we've got the Music Man Cutlass in the studio. Now this is the sterling version, which is Music Man's more affordable line. It's got pretty insane specs for the price. So let's dive in and find out what this guitar is all about. So as I mentioned, we've got the sterling Cutlass in the studio today, so we're going to give it the full treatment, show you guys a bunch of tones. I think we'll even do a teardown, pull the neck off, take a look at the pickups and the components. There's nothing really online about that, so I'm curious as to what the pickups and the pots are and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to give it the full treatment and check this guitar out. All right, so let's kick things off with the specs, then we'll move on to the tones and the teardown. Now, first spec, and I think the one lots of people will be wondering about is, well, what is the price? And happily, this is a true mid-range guitar. I've noticed a trend where like all the classic mid-range guitars seem to be creeping up and up and up in price, and suddenly they're not mid-range, they're like upper mid-range. So this is a true mid-range guitar at $500, and I think it's gonna break some records in terms of like the features offered versus price, especially from a major manufacturer. So anyway, here we go. Locking tuners. As I say, I expect them on guitars in that like $800 to $1,000 range. Unless it's a vintage reissue, they should have locking tuners. Here, I don't think I've ever had one on the channel for $500 that actually has locking tuners. Classic design with a thumb wheel that tightens up, and they function just as you would expect. Nice, tight, no play, locking tuners. It's great. Moving on to the nut, there's nothing listed in the specs, so I just assume it's probably plastic nut. It's cut really nice, looks great, but there's nothing in the specs, so I would assume that it's just a classic plastic nut. Moving on to the rest of the guitar, well, we've got a beautiful kind of deep chocolate roasted maple neck. So we're talking $500 from a major manufacturer, locking tuners, roasted maple neck, very nice. Rosewood fingerboard on this one, 22 frets. I think it's a 12-inch radius. I'll link to it in the video description below. You can get all the specs there, but it's kind of flatter than a Fender. Very comfortable neck profile. Again, this is something that's very hard to show on camera, but I'll just kind of rotate it for you guys. Nice kind of classic C profile. Now, as for the body, it's made out of poplar and it does feel quite light, so we'll throw it on the scale in a bit to get the exact number, but yeah, definitely in that Goldilocks kind of 7.5 pound range. Other than that, we've got 3 single coil pickups. They're not listed in the spec, so again, we'll pull off the pick guard, check out the electronics. Very simple. We've got 1 volume, 1 tone, 5-way switch, so pretty standard stuff. We've got the spoke wheel truss rod adjustment, which makes changing the relief on your neck very easy and very quick. So Music Man was one of the first companies to do that. Really great system. We've also got the Music Man trem, and I played on a Music Man almost exclusively for close to a decade, one of the American-made ones before I had a YouTube channel. And I could float this unlocked system, just locking tuners, floating bridge, and that thing, I couldn't put it out of tune no matter what I did. So very happy to see the same design stay on all the new Sterlings. So that's fantastic. And of course, as I showed, that Music Man heel joint is just fantastic. So that kind of wraps up the body. As you can see, I've got the cover off the trem. We'll talk about that a little later as well. That's the basic specs. Let's plug this thing in and check out some tones. Well, since we've got the single coil version of the Cutlass, let's start off with some clean tones. We'll go from the neck, work our way back to the bridge, and just check out what these pickups sound like. Here we go. So I mean, all the, spanky chiminess that you would expect from a single coil, it's all there. So I mean, that position 4, all the spank and quack, that you could want from, that classic neck and middle combination. When you dig in, it just becomes very spanky, and if you go slow, so yes, this middle single coil, tons of chime, tons of brightness, all the clarity you would expect from, that middle position. Let's try position 2. So again, lots of really great quack there. And then when we slap it into the bridge single coil, all right, now let's add some distortion. I'll play some lead lines along with some chords. Let's start with the neck pickup here. Let's try taking some of that tone out. I'm just going to dial that in. Bridge pickup. Alright, you guys, now let's throw the Cutlass into a mix. I'm going to jam over a backing track. Link to the track is in the video description below as always. It's time for the 1-minute solo. Well, now let's move on to the teardown. We're going to throw the guitar on the desk. We'll talk about the overall construction, look at the internals, all that kind of stuff. So let's head over to the desk. Well, you guys, let's start the teardown. Now, I should mention, you also get the pop-in bar, just like the American-made Music Man guitars. So great system, just pops straight in and out. Yeah, along with the trem, fantastic. So anyway, let's start by maybe taking off the neck. Now, as I mentioned, I'm really familiar with Music Man designs, and in the early days of the channel, I actually bought a Sterling, one of the first John Petrucci models. Yeah, and I loved that guitar. I ended up giving it away to one of my friends. But anyway, yeah, if you've been around since the beginning, you've actually probably seen me play a Sterling before, which is, yeah, fantastic. I love that guitar. So anyway, here is the neck joint. You know what, before we pull it off, I'll just let you guys take a good look at it. So we get 5 screws and a nice sculpted heel joint, something that, you know, Music Man has been doing for decades, you know, long before other brands had this sculpted heel joint and, you know, some poppin' bars and the, you know, the spoke wheel truss rod. They've always been giving us like a ton of awesome features, and so it's really, really great to see it on the Sterling as well. Okay, so let's take a look at the neck pocket, the neck joint. Here's sort of a close-up now that I got fingerprints all over it, but just a nice Sterling by Music Man plate with this serial number. Okay, so here we go. Now, I've left the strings on, and I'm hoping I can. Oh man, yep, this is what I was expecting. Just a beautiful, beautiful fit. And thankfully, let me just move the drill out of the way here. Thankfully, I was not disappointed. So yeah, the way this thing sets in there is just beautiful. Like, you have to press down really hard to get it into that joint. So here's a really close-up look at the neck. Of course, we can see that beautiful roasted maple on the bottom and the rosewood on top. Nice clean lines, as you would expect from a guitar like this. And that roasted maple, yeah, just looks fantastic. So, you know, nothing to worry about here. Clean lines, super tight fit in the pocket, which is awesome. And of course, yes, we've got the rosewood and the fretwork. We might as well talk about that. Nicely finished on both sides of the upper end. I'll take some close-up shots for you guys so you can see both sides there, and down low as well. I would say nicely dressed for sure, and fitting for this price range. And of course, no low frets, no high frets. Just plays very, very nice. So that's a look at the neck. Let's see if we can take a closer look at the pocket as well. Here we go. And that's just a closer look at that pocket. As I mentioned, really nice tight fit. And yeah, it's really nicely rounded. So there you guys go. That's the neck fitment. Let's take the pickguard off and look underneath. All right, you guys, here's what I'm really curious about. Let's take a look under the pickguard. Here's my predictions. I have not lifted it off yet, but I'm thinking these are Alnico pickups, given sort of like the chiminess of this guitar. And it is a $500 guitar with some pretty high-end specs, locking tuners, roasted maple neck, all that stuff. But I'm gonna guess that these are small dime-sized pots. Given the price, you know, they kind of got a, oh, nice. Okay, so it's first thing I noticed is nicely painted under there. So that's great. You don't always see that. So really clean, some shielding paint under there, which is great. And yes, we've got Alnico pickups. So that's fantastic. If they're ceramic, you would see a big bar, ceramic bar underneath there. And yep, alpha pots. So not totally unexpected. Obviously, this is what I guessed. So we've got alpha pots, small dime-sized alpha pots for the volume and the tone. And yeah, it sort of looks like a budget switch as well. But it's great that we've got Alnico pickups. So that's fantastic. And yeah, they just have a code on them, but no brand. So there you guys go. That's sort of an inside look at the electronics. And let's see if we can show you guys the trem cavity. I had that off for the entire review, so you maybe sort of stole a look, but here it is. Nice big block on this one as well. There's no tapering there at all. And of course you can take that the bar and put it right to the pickguard as well. So lots of throw. So great to see, you know, just a traditional setup, nothing crazy about it, but it is nice to see sort of like a fuller, thicker block on this design. So there you guys go. Alnico pickups, alpha pots, and you guys have seen the rest of the guitar. The trem system itself is really nice. So there you go. So here are my final thoughts on the Sterling Cutlass. Let's talk about the playability. Well, number one, the weight came in at 7.2, 7.3 pounds. Very nice and light. And of course, with the small Music Man headstock, there's no dive at all. So it just stays where you want it. And it's lightweight. All the contours are pretty much like kind of soft edges on this design. I'll just kind of like rotate it for you guys. But as you can see, even from the heel joint and carrying through the horns and all the edges on the guitar, they're all kind of like soft contours. Very comfortable to play for sure. And yeah, you get the Music Man headstock, which in my estimation is the best one ever designed since the beginning, and it's going to be hard to beat unless you go headless. But for guitars that have headstocks, this is just the best. The string geometry is straight through the nut, so there's no, going to the side either way, which can cause binding. There's no excess pressure down on the nut, which can cause binding. There's no string trees, which can cause binding. It's all eliminated. So if you need a guitar that's going to hold tune, this is one of the best designs ever. So love that. Satin neck, very comfortable, beautiful, and yeah, pickups sound great. They're just like a nice kind of lower output vintage style pickup for sure. So as you guys could hear, lots of kind of warmth and lots of chime, just classic single coil stuff. So at the end of it all, the big question is, well, should you buy one? And I think the answer is 2 or 3-fold. Number one, we've talked about this already, the price versus the features, right? $500, locking tuners, roasted maple neck, spoke, truss rod adjustment, Alnico pickups, 2-point trem, pop-in bar, big sustain block, sculpted heel joint, on and on it goes for $500. That's pretty much unrivaled right now. So if you want those features and you don't want to buy like a higher end guitar, this is a great option. Number two, well, how does it compare to other guitars in the market that would sound similar? So we're thinking like Fender Player Series, which is they're made in Mexico, the Fender made in Mexico guitars. They're starting for $750 right now. That's a lot more than $500, and you're not going to get, I think to get a Fender with like a roasted maple neck and locking tuners, you're probably looking over $1,000. So anyway, how it compares to other sort of like brand names that would sound similar to this guitar, again, very, very favorable. And number three, well, is it a good fit for your style? The pickups here are kind of like low output, classic, chimey, great for, clean tones, great for blues, great for some maybe classic rock. And if you got the version with the humbucker, maybe some higher gain stuff. So if it's a good fit for your budget, if it has the features you want, and if it sounds, the way you want a guitar to sound, or the type of guitar you're looking for, I think, as I said, I think this is pretty much unrivaled. I hope you guys enjoyed the demo. I will link to the guitar in the video description below. All my information, tab store, t-shirt store, gear I use, all that stuff is down there as well. Other than that, have yourself a great day.